We are live.
Greetings on Hump Day. I am Old New Dude, and he is.
Richard York, Asher's trueborn son.
I'm in a really good mood today. They did my driveway yesterday. Actually, they did the driveway Monday. I didn't see it till yesterday, and it is circular around the tree, just like I had envisioned in my head. And they performed it and pulled it off perfectly. I'm so happy. So we should be getting a call or an email in the next day or two and get a key. And yay me. Uh, sorry. Uh, uh, Getting back to Song of Ice and Fire. Tyrion 15. Clash of Kings. Now, if I'm not mistaken, in the show, which we don't talk show much on here, they waited for this until the beginning of season 3, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Well, I mean, he's still recovering at the beginning of season, at the beginning of book 3 too. So it's kind of, I mean, it's not like they showed the dreams, right? So
Yeah, okay. Not a problem. All right. Well, if you've watched any of these, and thank you for the gaggle of friends that we have. You have seen these. We start with the brains of the operation, which is Richard. He will say what he saw in the chapters, and then I will jump in with my stupid stuff. And Jeffrey, will you not invade Baggins?
anyway, Clash 67, Tyrion 15, Fever Dream. He dreamed of a cracked stone ceiling and the smells of blood and shit and burnt flesh. The air was full of acrid smoke. Men were groaning and whimpering all around him. From time to time, a scream would pierce the air, thick with pain. When he tried to move, he found that he had fouled his own bedding. The smoke in the air made his eyes water. Am I crying? He must not let his father see. He was a Lannister of Castle Rock. A lion. I must be a lion. Live a lion, die a lion. He hurt so much, though. Too weak to groan, he lay in his own filth and shut his eyes. Nearby, someone was cursing the gods in a heavy, monotonous voice. He listened to the blasphemies and wondered if he was dying. After a time, the room faded. It's kind of interesting that he's actually thinking about how he doesn't want Tywin to see him crying, and then later on he's going to be shocked that Tywin's there. But anyway, he's a little, his brain's a little scrambled right now.
Yeah.
So, in the second paragraph of this chapter, the Silent Sisters in King's Landing are stripping the dead. In the third paragraph, Tyrion will think of his mother and seemingly contrast her with Shay not being there. In the very beginning of the fourth paragraph, the Silent Sisters will be stripping the dead again. Here we go. He found himself outside the city, walking through a world without color. Ravens soared through a gray sky on wide black wings, while carrion crows rose from their feasts in furious clouds wherever he set his steps. White maggots burrowed through black corruption. The wolves were gray, and so were the Silent Sisters. Together they stripped the flesh from the fallen. There were corpses strewn all over the tourney fields. The sun was a hot white penny, shining down upon the gray river as it rushed around the charred bones of sunken ships. From the pyres of the dead rose black columns of smoke and white-hot ashes. My work, thought Tyrion Lannister. They died at my command.
Hey, before you go any further,
Yep.
let me see what it is. While carrion crows rose from their feast in furious clouds when wherever he set his steps. He's
Right,
dreaming that he's a
he's
giant.
dreaming that he's actually walking around. Yeah.
No, he's dreaming he's a giant. If he's his normal size, there are no crows to stir underneath his step. The only way the crows would stir from underneath his step is he's dreaming he's a giant.
Yeah, well, it's actually kind of weird anyway, because almost no matter what size you are, why are they underneath your step? You know, I mean, I get that underfoot is kind of a term and so forth, and maybe that's what's meant here, but I like your interpretation. And as we say, George likes to have ambiguity and multiple correct interpretations, and George can prefer one interpretation is correct, doesn't rule out the alternative interpretation. Anyway. Yep. Let's do paragraph 3, the mother, which is contrasted with Shay, but Shay is not there. At first, there was no sound in the world, but after a time he began to hear the voices of the dead, soft and terrible. They wept and moaned. They begged for an end to pain. They cried for help and wanted their mothers. Tyrion had never known his mother. He wanted Shay, but she was not there. He walked alone amidst gray shadows, trying to remember. So it really is interesting the contrast of Shay with Tyrion's mother, with Shay not there. Uh, uh, so anyway, we now immediately go back to the Silent Sisters were stripping the dead men of their armor and clothes. All the bright dyes had leached out from the surcoats of the slain. They were garbed in shades of white and gray, and their blood was black and crusty. He watched their naked bodies lifted by arm and leg to be carried swinging to the pyres to join their fellows. Metal and cloth were thrown in the back of a white wooden wagon pulled by two tall black horses. So let's go over some of the. Well, first off, I'll go ahead and say that shout out to the Sullied, aka Gods of Terror, for his famous Joanna's alive theory. And I wish I could remember the Twitter, now X, identity. I know he's a mutual, and I apologize for not remembering. But
Shame
anyway,
on you! Shame on you, Pastor
Well,
me!
the guy has like three names.
Yeah,
Says
man.
Richard
But
York, running
you
the
are
YouTube channel Asher's Trueborn Son.
you are the encyclopedia. I look to you to remember stuff that I can't remember, and you failed me.
Anyway, all
Obi
right.
Wan
So
Kenobi, you are my only hope.
let's go through some of the evidence, right? So in Storm Tyrion 5, we're specifically told a queer time to come visiting, right? So in story, we're told that the story we're being told as the backstory makes no sense, right? So Oberyn claims that the real reason was because they were trying to form a marriage alliance between the Martells and the Lannisters, but our characters are often wrong. Then in Tyrion 10 of Storm, we get, and there was an empty cabin on our ship, a very nice cabin, such as might be kept for a person of high birth, as if it were intended that we take someone back to Sunspear. And you have to wonder whether they were really going to put Jaime or Cersei in their own cabin and really expecting that to happen. I don't think they were. Anyway, then, in fact, I think they were deliberately hiding the person in that cabin, and there was a person in that cabin, and it was Joanna. Then in Feast, Jaime 7, this is a dream. Is it? She smiled sadly. Count your hands, child. Right? So one hand clasped tight around the sword hilt. Only one. In my dreams, I always have two hands. He raised his right arm and stared uncomprehending at the ugliness of its stump. So we know Lenora Hill was the same age as her sister, Joanna Lannister, and probably looked like her. We know Lenora Hill was a servant in Castle Rock. We know a servant discovered Jaime and Cersei coupling, as the show would say, and was sent away at about the same time Joanna died. And we know Jaime and Cersei coupling is evidence that they're Targaryens. See Trip of the Targaryens, episode 5. So anyway, I really do like that theory, right? It kind of fits in with our whole echoes of Ned with Tyrion. He's been attacked by a Kingsguard. He's having Chris says too. He's been attacked by a Kingsguard. He's having a fever dream. We believe that Ned is having a fever dream about some people that aren't necessarily all dead, right?
Right.
And this is sort of tying the people who the Silent Sisters preparing the dead in King's Landing with Tyrion's mother, implying that Tyrion's mother is there and that Shay is not, and then going right back to the Silent Sisters at King's Landing again. And what does who does Jaime see? He sees a Silent Sister who he originally thinks is 15 and then says or 50, right? And typically when you do that, the second age is the more accurate age, right? Now he's saying it as she's timeless and timeless beauty, but it's also could be interpreted as meaning that she's actually more like 50 than 15.
Just a well-aged or gracefully aged. Yeah. Well, see, the first time I read, actually, I don't know how many damn times I read it, I never caught on that she was still alive, that Joanna was still alive. It was not until you told me, and it was like a Lady Thistle mic drop. My head, the emoji with the head blowing up, that was me. I was like, holy crap. So I went back and read that after you told me, and I'm like, No shit. This is true.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
all his smiles belong to her and her alone.
He only has one hand. He's not
Somebody decided,
dreaming. Oh,
somebody decided to give Tywin a smile, and
yeah. Well, I mean,
if
I know there are those that will say that he's been awake. He's just exhausted,
Mhm.
and I mean, everybody points to the stuff that helps their narrative. And you know me, I love a new theory, especially if it's a brand new rabbit hole I get to go down. So when you told me that,
Oh,
I was like, man, this is awesome. And my question
at the end,
is,
remind me to tell you another one that I came across recently. That's interesting. I don't know what to make of it yet. I just came across it, but anyway,
okay, um, will she show again in this story?
probably not. Right, with the whole weeds of winter thing we've talked about, the fact that he really needs to pull some of these weeds.
Yeah, but she has shown her face to Jamie.
Uh-huh.
She refuses to show her face to Cersei. Cersei is not worthy of this knowledge. But if Tyrion, the shit that he becomes, ever takes Casterly Rock back, would she show him to say, hey, look, you're not the monster everyone said you were. You did not kill your mother coming into the world, trying to pull him back from the edge or past the edge that he is on. And would Tyrion just go further past the edge, saying, you're the one that
Yeah,
started it
he might just
all?
redirect his anger at her. That's definitely
Exactly.
possible. That could
That's
definitely
what I'm
happen.
thinking.
Yeah, that could definitely happen.
That might
That's
be
interesting.
the final push that just.
He's already confronted his father, and he could confront his mother as well. Yeah, that's really interesting. Yeah,
Yeah. I
and of
mean,
course,
doesn't George doesn't have to bring her back for long, just long enough for him to become the solid black lion dragon slash chimera uh, that he is, and just be unredeemable. I mean,
right, right,
most of what
and
he does, especially later in the books, is unredeemable, and where he's going is going to be unredeemable. But in this story, we have always seen, like with Jamie, I had to smile when I said Jamie. I mean, there are not everybody, but there are those that start out complete butts, and George brings them back, especially when you start to get into their interior monologue, bringing them back, giving them redeeming qualities, all that kind of stuff, and then changing their arc. Now, Tyrion kind of starts out the other way and is going toward the dark side.
right,
Um,
right. He and Jamie are sort of two opposite sides of the coin, right?
right.
He's he's upset that everybody views him as a monster and says, "I wish I were the monster," right? And whereas Jamie's like, "I could be the hero. I could write
Yeah.
the story.
I
I could
mean,
be the hero." Yep.
Tyrion is going to fully embrace the monster side of him, but is there going to be a last attempt to
Sure.
try to deviate
Yep.
his path with his mother, and that actually be
I like it.
the thing that pushed him back even further away from any redeeming qualities whatsoever, and just totally embrace his Targaryen blood altogether
Right. Right.
and burn them all.
And while we're here on the subject of fever dreams, I've always said that I thought that Barristan is then an echo of Ned and Tyrion, right? And he might be attacked by he might be attacked by one of the pit fighters. It probably was is it the spotted cat that's the one that's the most dangerous?
I
Because
think so.
and then he might be saved by the red lamb because that's the one that reminds me kind of a pod. And then um, and then maybe he'll dream of Chardane. Now that's probably a little too close to the way Tyrion went down, but I don't know. So it's good predictions I can make at this point.
I know we went off on a bit of a tangent there, people. Sorry about that, but I do love
This is
the
where it's
show
at,
in.
man. This is
Yeah, it's
yeah,
I get goosebumps just talking about it.
yep,
Sorry.
yep, yep. So many dead, so very many. Their corpses hung limply, their faces slack or stiff or swollen with gas, unrecognizable, hardly human. The garments the sisters took from them were decorated with black hearts, gray lions, dead flowers, and pale ghostly stags. Their armor was all dented and gashed, the chainmail riven, broken, slashed. Why did I kill them all? He had known once, but somehow he had forgotten. He would have asked one of the Silent Sisters, but when he tried to speak, he found he had no mouth. Smooth, seamless skin covered his teeth. The discovery terrified him. How could he live without a mouth? He began to run. The city was not far. He'd be safe inside the city, away from all these dead. He did not belong with the dead. He had no mouth, but he was still a living man. No, a lion. A lion and alive. But when he reached the city walls, the gates were shut against him. So there's definitely some potential quiet lion foreshadowing there.
Yeah.
It was dark when he woke again. At first, he could see nothing, but after a time, the vague outlines of the bed appeared around him. The drapes were drawn, but he could see the shape of carved bedposts and the droop of the velvet canopy over his head. Under him was the yielding softness of a feather bed, and the pillow beneath his head was goose down. My own bed. I am in my own bed, in my own bedchamber. Our characters are often wrong.
Yeah. In the possible losing his tongue, the quiet lion.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing that Tyrion has to go against the monster image that is thrown on him or how he looks is his sense of humor. And it often, like with Bronn and some of the other characters and Jon, it's his mouth, his words that show them, oh wait, he's not a little gargoyle. He is an intelligent, nice, caring, all these things that prove that he's not the monster, which I think a lot of it is him trying to prove that he's not the monster, more than his actual character. But when you take that tongue away, when you take those words away, all that's left is the monster. I mean, granted, his deeds could, but without the words, without his trade, without his Jamie sword
Sure.
hand,
Right.
all that's left
Well,
is
that's part of the theory, right? Is that Jamie feels like he's defined by his sword, and that's how he would get out of any trouble. Tyrion tends to talk his way out of trouble, and Cersei tends to rely upon her looks, right?
yeah.
And Cersei sort of has her power of her looks taken from her. And Jamie certainly has the power of his sword hand taken from him. And so the theory goes that Tyrion needs to have the power of his tongue taken from him. And there's certainly a lot of times when we're told that someday somebody's going to rip out his tongue.
If only I could reach in the stories and let Jamie know that he is so much more than that hand. He's a Azor Ahai, a savior of us all. I mean,
All right, continuing.
I couldn't help myself. I'm sorry.
It was warm inside the drapes, under the great heap of furs and blankets that covered him. He was sweating. Fever, he thought groggily. He felt so weak, and the pain stabbed through him when he struggled to lift his hand. He gave up the effort. His head felt enormous, as big as the bed, too heavy to raise from the pillow. His body he could scarcely feel at all. How did I come here? He tried to remember. The battle came back in fits and flashes. The fight along the river, the knight who'd offered up his gauntlet, the bridge of ships, Sir Mandan. He saw the dead, empty eyes, the reaching hand, the green fire shining against the white enamel plate. Fear swept over him in a cold rush. Beneath the sheets, he could feel his bladder letting go. He would have cried out if he'd had a mouth. No, that was the dream, he thought, his head pounding. Help me. Someone help me. Jamie, Shay, Mother, someone. Taisha. No one heard. No one came. Alone in the dark, he fell back into piss-scented sleep. He dreamed his sister was standing over his bed and with their Lord Father beside her, frowning. It had to be a dream, since Lord Tywin was 1,000 leagues away, fighting Robb Stark in the west. Others came and went as well. Varys looked down at him and sighed, but Littlefinger made a quip. Bloody treacherous bastard, Tyrion thought venomously. We sent you to Bitterbridge, and you never came back. Sometimes he could hear them talking to one another, but he did not understand the words. Their voices buzzed in his ears like wasps muffled in thick felt. Bloody, treacherous, and Tootle suggests a Greyjoy bastard, but he did come back and save the city.
Wait a minute. You're saying that little or Toodles is saying Littlefinger is a Greyjoy bastard?
Yep.
Have you sent that one to me?
No.
Oh, you got to send it now. That's it. You have to send it.
All right. And like I said, I've got another one I got to mention to you at the end.
Yeah. Hey, quick thing. He's talking about all these people that are standing over him talking. They can't be there, all that kind of stuff. But in the paragraph before, when he calls for help, he calls for Jamie, Shay, two people that we know are alive, then his mother, and then Taisha, saying that
Yeah, and
all
of
four
course
of
Tash is
those
alive. So yeah,
are still alive.
yeah, that's a good point. I like it. He wanted to ask if they'd won the battle. We must have, else I'd be a head on a spike somewhere. If I live, we won. He did not know what pleased him more, the victory or the fact he'd been able to reason it out. His wits were coming back to him, however slowly. That was good. His wits were all he had. Yeah, especially if he loses his tongue.
Yeah.
The next time he woke, the draperies had been pulled back and Podrick Payne stood over him with a candle. When he saw Tyrion open his eyes, he ran off. No, don't go. Help me. Help, he tried to call. The best he could do was a muffled moan. I have no mouth. He raised a hand to his face, his every movement pained and fumbling. His fingers found stiff cloth where they should have found flesh, lips, teeth, linen. The lower half of his face was bandaged tightly, a mask of hardened plaster with holes for breathing and feeding.
Hey,
A short
quick
while.
before you go any
Yep.
further,
Yep.
if all that has left him after he's lost his tongue is his wits, I can see a scenario where he's trying to write down instructions to somebody that can't read, and
Sure.
him just freaking losing it on the inside because all we'll have is his interior monologue, and he's just
Yep.
freaking going
Yep.
crazy.
Absolutely. Um, a short while later, Pod reappeared. This time a stranger was with him, a maester chained and robed. My lord, you must be still, the man murmured. You are grievous hurt. You will do yourself great injury. Are you thirsty? He managed an awkward nod. The maester inserted a curved copper funnel through the feeding hole over his mouth and poured a slow trickle down his throat. Tyrion swallowed, scarcely tasting. Too late, he realized the liquid was milk of the poppy. By the time the maester removed the funnel from his mouth, he was already spiraling back to sleep. This time he dreamed he was at a feast, a victory feast in some great hall. He had a high seat on the dais, and men were lifting their goblets and hailing him as a hero. Marillion was there, the singer who journeyed with him through the mountains of the moon. He played his wood harp and sang the imp's daring deeds. Even his father was smiling with approval. Tywin smiling? This really is about Joanna. All his smiles belong to her and her alone, as we already said. The silent sister in King's Landing prepared his corpse. When the song was over, Jaime rose from his place, commanded Tyrion to kneel, touched him first on one shoulder and then on the other with his golden sword, and he rose up a knight. Shay was waiting to embrace him. She took him by the hand, laughing and teasing, calling him her giant of Lannister. He woke in darkness to an empty, cold room. The draperies had been drawn again. Something felt wrong. Turned around, though he could not have said what. He was alone once more. Pushing back the blankets, he tried to sit, but the pain was too much, and he soon subsided, breathing raggedly. His face was the least part of it. His right side was one huge ache, and a stab of pain went through his chest whenever he lifted his arm. What's happened to me? Even the battle seemed half a dream when he tried to think back on it. I was hurt more badly than I knew. Sir Mandan. The memory frightened him, but Tyrion made himself hold it, turn it in his head, stare at it hard. He tried to kill me. He tried to kill me. No mistake. That part was not a dream. He would have cut me in half if Pod had not. Pod? Where's Pod? Gritting his teeth, he grabbed hold of the bed hangings and yanked. The drapes ripped free of the canopy overhead and tumbled down, half on the rushes and half on him. Even that small effort had dizzied him. The room whirled around him, all bare walls and dark shadows, with a single narrow window. He saw a chest he'd owned, an untidy pile of his clothing, his battered armor. This is not my bedchamber, he realized. Not even the Tower of the Hand. Someone had moved him. His shout of anger came out as a muffled moan. They've moved me here to die, he thought as he gave up the struggle and closed his eyes once more. The room was dank and cold, and he was burning. So he's taking like the opposite approach to a Kingsguard trying to kill him that Bran takes. No, you don't need that right now. Anyway, he dreamed of a better place, a snug little cottage. But yeah,
Before you go, if
yeah.
there is any skin changing or green seer blood in Tyrion, this would have been the time for the 3-Eyed Crow to come to him. So there is none.
Okay. Yeah, could be.
Or that the 3-Eyed Crow wasn't looking for him.
He dreamed of a better place, a snug little cottage by the sunset sea. The walls were lopsided and cracked, and the floor had been been made of packed earth, but he had always been warm there, even when they let the fire go out. She used to tease me about that, he remembered. I never thought to feed the fire. That had always been a servant's task. We have no servants, she would remind me, and I would say, you have me. I'm your servant. And she would say, a lazy servant? What do they do with lazy servants in Castle Rock, my lord? And he would tell her, they kiss them. That would always make her giggle. They do not neither. They beat them, I bet, she would say, but he would insist, no, they kiss them just like this. He would show her how. They kiss their fingers first, every one, and they kiss their wrists, yes, and inside their elbows. Then they kiss their funny ears. All our servants have funny ears. Stop laughing. And they kiss their cheeks, and they kiss their noses with the little bump in them. There, so like that. And they kiss their sweet brows and their hair and their lips, their mouths. So they would kiss for hours and spend whole days doing no more than lolling in bed, listening to the waves and touching each other. Her body was a wonder to him, and she seemed to find delight in his. Sometimes she would sing to him, I loved a maid as fair as summer with sunlight in her hair. I love you, Tyrion, she would whisper before they went to sleep at night. I love your lips, I love your voice, and the words you say to me, and how you treat me gentle. I love your face. My face? Yes, yes. I love your hands and how you touch me. Your cock, I love your cock. I love how it feels when it's in me. It loves you too, my lady. I love to say your name, Tyrion Lannister. It goes with mine. Not the Lannister, the other part. Tyrion and Tysha. Tysha and Tyrion. Tyrion, my lord Tyrion. Lies, he thought. All feigned, all for gold. She was a whore, Jaime's gift, my lady of the lie. Her face seemed to fade away, dissolving behind a veil of tears. But even after she was gone, he could still hear the faint, far-off sound of her voice, calling his name. My lord, can you hear me? My lord, Tyrion, my lord, my lord. Through a haze of poppies. Yeah, go ahead.
I know he's young at that time, but even now, looking back, Tyrion would be able to see through a lie, and a whore. Granted, some across the Darrow Sea and even some of those in King's Landing are extremely good actresses, but this is over what a fortnight,
Yeah.
every day, all day. Um,
Yeah,
once,
it's probably motivated reasoning in a sense, right? He's gonna just as Jamie is going along with this awful gang rape, so is he,
yeah,
and they feel like they have no choice because their father has such control of their lives,
yeah.
and so I think some of it's motivated reasoning, right? He doesn't want to realize the truth and what's a lie.
Exactly. I
Um,
mean, at the time, he falls in love with her, she falls in love with him. It's genuine, and
mhm,
the way he should know that it's genuine is he's not a stupid person then either. Granted, he
mhm,
doesn't have as many miles on him yet, but his love is because of her love, not just the sex. And the fact that the reason he can't see it now is he doesn't want to see it, because if he does see it for what it really was, then that's another part of the monster, uh, all these years,
right.
ignoring it or choosing not to see the truth is
Mhm,
another proof that he is the monster that everybody says he is. If
yeah.
that makes any
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah, I think it does. Through a haze of poppied sleep, he saw a soft pink face leaning over him. He was back in the dank room with the torn bed hangings, and the face was wrong. Not hers. Too round, with a brown fringe of beard. Do you thirst, my lord? I have your milk, your good milk. You must not fight. No, don't try to move. You need your rest. He had the copper funnel in one damp pink hand and a flask in the other. As the man leaned close, Tyrion's fingers slid underneath his chain of many metals, grabbed, pulled. Maester dropped the flask, spilling milk of the poppy all over the blanket. Tyrion twisted until he could feel the links digging into the flesh of the man's fat neck. No more, he croaked, so hoarse he was not certain he had even spoken. But he must have, for the maester choked out a reply. Unhand, please, my lord. Need your milk, the pain, the chain. Don't unhand, no. So he's twisting a chain as kind of when he murdered Shay here. The pink face was beginning to purple when Tyrion let go. Maester reeled back, sucking in air. His reddened throat showed deep white gouges where the links had pressed. His eyes were white, too. Tyrion raised a hand to his face and made a ripping motion over the hardened mask. And again, and again. You
Hey,
let them.
before you go any further, that
Yep.
pulling the chain is what first gave Tyrion the knowledge that even with one hand and a chain around the neck, he could take out a stronger, bigger person
Yep.
relatively easily,
Yep.
which leads to Shay's death later on.
Right, and it arguably foreshadows, if you believe Jamie is the Valonqar, then it arguably foreshadows how he would be able to wrap his hands around Cersei's throat and kill her with a single hand, because
Yep.
that's what he does
Well,
with
I mean,
both.
chain of golden hands is hands, and he could
Right,
sit there and twist it in
he could
one.
take the hand job, as Girl Squad Canon likes to call it, right, and and somehow
Jamie
somehow though he
hand
would need
job. Is this heaven? What? No, never mind.
somehow 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 he would need Cersei to kind of take it back, right? He would need to have taken the job, and then Cersei would have needed to have basically said, "I'll do it myself," and have taken the chain herself or something. But it could happen. You could see how it could happen. Is the point, right?
Yeah, yeah.
You want the bandages off? Is that it? The Baster said at last. But I'm not to. That would be most unwise, my lord. You are not yet healed. The queen would. The mention of his sister made Tyrion growl. You one of hers, then? He pointed a finger at the maester, then coiled his hand into a fist, crushing, choking, a promise, lest the fool did as he was bid. Thankfully, he understood. I will do as my lord commands, to be sure, but this is unwise. Your wounds. Do it, louder that time. Bowing, the man left the room, only to return a few months later bearing a long knife with a slender sawtooth blade, a basin of water, a pile of soft cloths, and several flasks. By then Tyrion had managed to squirm backward a few inches, so he was half sitting against his pillow. The maester bade him be very still as he slid the tip of the knife in under his chin, beneath the mask. A slip of the hand here, and Cersei will be free of me, he thought. He could feel the blade sawing through the stiffened linen only inches above his throat. Fortunately, this soft pink man was not one of his sister's braver creatures. After a moment, he felt cool air on his cheeks. There was pain as well, but he did his best to ignore that. The maester discarded the bandages, still crusty with potion. Be still now. I must wash out the wound. His touch was gentle, the water warm and soothing. The wound, Tyrion thought, remembering a sudden flash of bright silver that seemed to pass just below his eyes. This is like to sting some, the maester warned as he wet a cloth with wine that smelled of crushed herbs. It did more than sting. It traced a line of fire all the way across Tyrion's face and twisted a burning poker up his nose. His fingers clawed the bedclothes and he sucked in his breath, but somehow he managed not to scream. The maester was clucking like an old hen. Actually, that kind of reminds me of Jamie saying, I'll scream. It would have been wiser to leave the mask in place until the flesh had knit, my lord. Still, it looks clean. Good, good. When we found you down in that cellar among the dead and dying, your wounds were filthy. One of your ribs was broken. Doubtless you can feel it. The blow of some mace, perhaps, or a fall. It's hard to say. You took an arrow in the arm, there where it joins the shoulder. It showed signs of mortification, and for a time I feared you might lose the limb. But we treated it with boiling wine and maggots, and now it seems to be healing clean. So Tyrion has tear symbolism.
And also the fortunate hidden fingers
Oh, yeah.
finding him just in time to be able to save the limb, save
Yep.
his life, save
Yep.
a lot of him from what could have happened.
Absolutely. Name, Tyrion breathed up at him. Name, the maester blinked. Why, you are Tyrion Lannister, my lord, brother to the queen. Do you remember the battle? Sometimes with head wounds. Your name! His throat was raw and his tongue had forgotten how to shape the words. I am Maester Balabar. Balabar, Tyrion repeated. Bring me looking glass. My lord, the maester said, I would not counsel. That might be unwise, as it were. Your wound. Bring it, he had to say. His mouth was stiff and sore, as if a punch had split his lip. And drink. Wine. No poppy. Maester rose, flushed-faced, and hurried off. Came back with a flagon of pale amber wine and a small silvered looking glass in an ornate golden frame. Sitting on the edge of the bed, he poured half a cup of wine and held it to Tyrion's swollen lips. The trickle went down cool, but he could hardly taste it. More, he said when the cup was empty. Mr. Balabar poured again. By the end of the second cup, Tyrion Lannister felt strong enough to face his face. He turned over the glass and did not know whether he ought to laugh or cry. The gash was long and crooked, starting the hair under his left eye and ending on the right side of his jaw. 3/4 of his nose was gone and a chunk of his lip. Someone had sewn the torn flesh together with catgut, and their clumsy stitches were still in place across the seam of raw, red, half-healed flesh. Pretty, he croaked, flinging the glass aside. He remembered now the bridge of boats, Sir Mandon Moore, a hand, a sword coming at his face. If I had not pulled back, that cut would have taken off the top of my head. Jamie had always said that Sir Mandon was the most dangerous of the King's Guard, because his dead, empty eyes gave no hint to his intentions. I should never have trusted any of them. He'd known that Sir Meryn and Sir Boris were his sisters, and Sir Osmond later, but he had let himself believe that the others were not wholly lost to honor. Cersei must have paid him to see that I never came back from the battle. Why else? I never did Sir Mandon any harm that I know of. Tyrion touched his face, plucking at the proud flesh with blunt, thick fingers. Another gift from my sweet sister. Well, Dorcas may have convinced him, although Preston has this theory that, maybe he was actually just doing his job and that he recognized that Tyrion was, constantly abusive to the king.
Yeah, I was just thinking that it could have been all on his own,
Yeah.
just doing what he thought needed to be done to protect the king from Tyrion. Because I mean, Tyrion had already taken Tommen, had already sent away Myrcella. The, uh, the as a Kingsguard, he's already hearing what Cersei's saying, what Lancel's
Yep.
saying to Cersei, other people in conversation that are around the Queen, all their conversations about Tyrion. So I
Well,
mean,
and later on, Oberyn will be upset with the Kingsguard for the fact that they haven't already killed Tyrion or cut off his hand because he's been abusive to the king, right?
yeah,
The maester stood beside the bed like a goose about to take flight. My lord, there will most like be a scar. Most like? His snort of laughter turned into wince of pain. There would be a scar, to be sure, nor was it likely that his nose would be growing back anytime soon. It was not as if his face had ever been fit to look at. Teach me not to play with axes. His grin felt tight. Where are we? What place? It hurt to talk, but Tyrion had been too long in silence. Ah, you're in Maegor's holdfast, my lord, a chamber over the Queen's ballroom. Her Grace wanted you kept close, so she might watch over you herself. I'll wager she did. Return me, Tyrion commanded. Own bed, own chambers. I'll have my own men about me, and my own maester, too, if I find one I can trust. Your own. My lord, that would not be possible. The king's hand has taken up residence in your former chambers. I am King's hand. He was growing exhausted by the effort of speaking and confused by what he was hearing. Maester Balbar looked distressed. No, my lord, you were wounded near death. Your lord father has taken up those duties now. Lord Tywin, here? Since the night of the battle, Lord Tywin saved us all. Small folks say it was King Renly's ghost, but wiser men know better. It was your father and Lord Tyrell with the Knight of Flowers and Lord Littlefinger. They rode through the ashes and took the usurper Stannis in the rear. It was a great victory, and now Lord Tywin has settled into the Tower of the Hand to help his grace set the realm to rights. Gods be praised. Gods be praised, Tyrion repeated hollowly. His bloody father and bloody Littlefinger and Renly's ghosts? What do I want? Not tell Pink Balabar to fetch him Shay. Who could he send for? Who could he trust? Varys? Bronn? Sir Jocelyn? My squire, he finished. Pod. Payne. It was Pod on the bridge of boats. The lad saved my life. The boy? The odd boy? Odd boy. Podrick. Payne. You go. Send him. As you will, my lord. Maester Malabar bobbed his head and hurried out. Tyrion could feel the strength seeping out of him as he waited. He wondered how long he had been here, asleep. Cersei would have me sleep forever, but I won't be so obliging. His belief, like, if Cersei wanted him dead, he wouldn't be alive. Like, use the same logic you used on the battle.
she could have easily ended his life with all of the wounded from the battle before anybody realized that Tyrion was out there. I mean, yeah,
She could have just told the Maester, ease his passing. He's clearly in bad shape. He's his passing, right? She could. It would anyway.
Yeah.
Potter Payne entered the bedchamber, timid as a mouse. My lord, he crept close to the bed. How can a boy so bold in battle be so frightened in the sick room? Tyrion wondered. I meant to stay by you, but the Maester sent me away. Send him away. Hear me. Talks hard. Need dream wine. Dream wine, not milk of the poppy. Good of Franken. Franken, not Balabar. Watch him make it. Bring it here. Pod stole a glance at Tyrion's face and just as quickly averted his eyes. Well, I cannot blame him for that. Tyrion went on, mine own guard. Bronn. Where's Bronn? They made him a knight. Even frowning hurt. Find him. Bring him. As you say, my lord. Bronn. Tyrion seized the lad's wrist. Sir Mandon? The boy flinched. I never meant to. Dead? You're certain? Dead? He shuffled his feet sheepish. Drowned. Good. Say nothing. Of him. Of me. Any of it. Nothing. By the time his squire left, the last of Tyrion's strength was gone as well. He lay back and closed his eyes. Perhaps he would dream of Tysha again. I wonder how she'd like my face now, he thought bitterly. Up next, Clash 68, Jon 8. Are you a man of the Night's Watch? Is your blade sharp, Jon Snow?
I always wondered, like the all glorious Jaime and his golden hand, why Tyrion doesn't wear any type of fake kind of nose, anything to like an eye patch with just a couple of skin tone straps or whatever, some kind of fake nose, a golden nose, anything.
Which reminds me. So the coconut god thinks that Quaithe is the dusky woman.
Oh, wow.
Anyway.
Before we get further, read what Lizzie just wrote.
I always like Sir Mandon being Littlefinger's creature. Yeah, but Littlefinger basically tells us that he's not.
But that should be your redeeming quality to point that it is. Because isn't Mandon the one that is cordial or has a conversation with Littlefinger that we point out?
Draw more attention to himself with the gold nose. I think he would think, why give them more reason to make fun? No, it's Balon Swan that's friends with Littlefinger. But,
okay.
But Littlefinger specifically implies that he's tried to get the Kingsguard that were loyal to him to do things after they became Kingsguard, and it might even include Osmond Kettleblack, that he claims that they don't listen to him once they get the White Cloak.
Yep.
Lady Thistle says Mandon is only loyal to Joffrey, in my opinion. Yeah. Well, and of course, Littlefinger and Dorcas can manipulate people who aren't necessarily theirs. They can figure out what motivates them and figure out how to convince them. Right. Either one of them could basically potentially convince Sir Mandon that Tyrion is a threat to Joffrey.
Yeah.
And so doing that would probably be enough. So it could really be either one of them. I just like it being. I like the Dorcas idea because it creates more parallels between Ned and Tyrion. He's constantly being warned that he's putting too much faith in him. And
if you stop and think about it, though, okay, Littlefinger has been gone.
Redacted has the right of it.
Littlefinger has been gone for a little bit, heading to the Tyrells and all that stuff. Dorcas is in King's Landing with the approaching battle, and also Dorcas being the one to convince Mandon to do it makes more sense because Dorcas has been the one that's been more of a friend. Hey,
better late than never. Yeah,
better late than never, man.
And he's the one who gets put in charge of the investigation.
Well,
what were his motives? Oh, nobody knows.
Well, like I said,
really?
Yeah. Well, out of the two, Dorcas, Littlefinger, Dorcas has been the better friend, the better ally, supposedly. So it just makes more sense that the obvious not person is the person that it is.
Right, and he's constantly being warned that he's putting too much faith in him, and it's supposed to be an echo of Ned, and who's responsible for the deaths of the the regent/hand Tywin? Is he carefully gives Tyrion explicit instructions on how to kill Tywin. He kills Kevin Lannister as regent, right? And Tyrion was entirely too competent as at the time. Now, if he had thought through the fact that he didn't know that what was going to happen was that they were going to get saved by Tywin, and Tywin was going to take over everything and so forth. So at the time, Dorcas played Tyrion like a fiddle. Yeah, exactly. So at the time, Tyrion seems like the most competent of his Lannister enemies, and he has a
Right.
habit of killing his competent, or at least trying to kill his
Which
competent
is
Tyrion
odd.
Lannister enemies.
I agree with you that Dorcas was caught by surprise on the Tywin. That him not knowing what Tywin was doing. Now, did Tywin do away with all of Dorcas's little spies in his camp, possibly, or
Yeah,
is it
maybe.
just that
Or they rode so fast that his spies couldn't get there any faster.
Okay, or Dorcas thought Tywin was doing something else and was more preoccupied with
Right. It's
what
just
was
that
happening close. Yeah,
I think that he came faster than anybody was expecting.
that's what she said.
So welcome to Bankar, and
It's always nice when you're able
So
to join us live, but the Valonqar, like I've told you in the comment that I did yesterday, the Valonqar has been our longest fan. He has been with us almost since the beginning. He always watches every video. He always leaves a comment. I never look I never specifically go and check because it used to always give me his comments, and it just now started doing that. Why it stopped for I don't know how long. It just now started doing that again. Thankfully, to where I can react to his comment, but. Not saying that the Valonqar is better than everybody else here. I'm not saying everybody else here is better than the Valonqar. We appreciate every single one of y'all that join us on the live streams or watches the video. But I always try to give the Valonqar a nod, just for the simple fact that he has been here the longest, and we appreciate him. But we appreciate Lizzie, the Lady Thistle, Chris the Crow, which he has no choice in this. Todd, Jeffrey. I mean.
Sanji.
We appreciate all of y'all.
Sanji and Jeffrey are here today.
Oh, hey, Sanji, I apologize.
The Valonqar is the real hero here. Like I was just happy to be here. I like it.
There you go. I'm going to tell you, I have more fun today's chat room than I did Mondays.
Of course,
I don't know.
I assume the Valonqar thought he was naming himself Jamie when he named himself. So I don't know what he thinks of us declaring that he's Lord.
Is he speaking of himself in the third person when he says the Valonqar is just happy to be here?
I suppose so. Anyway.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in my mind, Jamie is everything. So he is the Valonqar. He is the last hero. He is Azor Ahai.
And part of the point of Loras being the Loras being the Valonqar is that your theory, Richard. How many have we given already today, Chris? but part of the point of Loras being the Valonqar is that he is Jamie. Third person boss move. I will never tell my real identity. Okay.
Wait a minute. Don't I know your X or Twitter name?
I think he didn't. He doesn't use it much anymore. If he may even have deleted it. But he has. I think I subscribed to him on YouTube. Jimmy is also bolt on.
I'm fine with that. Jeffrey made a comment. I like making jokes about Jamie, and then I made a joke yesterday about Craven the Hunter that it made me all tingly in my pants. And Jeffrey's like, you learn more about yourself as you get older. I'm all about making people laugh, and my reactions to certain people. I'm secure enough in who I am that I can comment on how good looking a guy is and not think anything of it. Making jokes like this, I don't think anything of it. I just think it's funny. I think the people, the actors, are that good looking of a person that if I was to go that way, that would be the way I'd go. And but like I said, I always really try to. I go overboard sometimes to try to be funny because to hear other people laugh is really, really, really good medicine for me, especially with a lot of stuff going on
Sure.
in my life. So I love, like, lady, nothing against everybody else here, but when we do book club or chat on the ride to to go pick up Carter, Lady Thistle has the most adorable laugh that the second I hear it, I cannot help but just get a big old grin across my face. I just think it's awesome. It should be a ringtone. They should put it in little stuffed animals. It's just great. And Lizzie and everybody, Jeffrey, all anytime I can hear them laugh, it's just it means a lot to me to make other people happy. Uh, Not to go off on a weird
No,
little
that's cool.
tangent there, but
So I guess I owe you some links.
also, Valencar said he is off Twitter. You're not the only one. I have not been on Twitter for months. Uh, and I know we call it X here today. That's the dumbest name I ever heard in my life.
Of course.
Yes. Yes. When she's keeping super secret, it is going to bug you and drive you crazy till Friday, Lizzie. Lady Thistle, for those that don't know, had mentioned yesterday that she was working on something super secret. And the second she said super secret, Lizzie's little ears perked up. And I can imagine Baggins running around in a circle and then looking up at her with his ears perking up, going, secret. I got to know what the secret is. I got to know what the secret is.
Sorry, I don't worry back up to the secret stuff.
It's okay. But that, yeah, it made for a really good drive
All right.
yesterday.
Anyway, so the reading assignments are let's see, what do we got? We got Joanna's alive, although that claims she's Quaith, which I don't think she is. I think she's it was exactly like that in Torture and Liz. Anyway, the so I don't think she's Quaith. I think she's actually a Silent Sister in King's Landing, and all of Time and Smiles belong to her and her alone. But
yeah,
but the evidence of her being alive is from the original Joanna's Alive post is great. And then
well,
Toodles thinks that Littlefinger is a bastard, right? Specifically a Greyjoy bastard.
yes, you have to send me that today when you get off of here, because now you spark the rabbit hole.
And I also mentioned that Quaith is the Dusky Woman.
Yeah, I like that. Even though it's sick, I like the Euron is the Dusky Woman, using her to spy on.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I'm sold on the Quaith thing. I just came across that. I haven't read it in detail. I just read the TLDR conclusion stuff.
I just had a thought and forgot it right off the get go.
Sorry about that.
You're talking about
Euron and Euron being the Dusky Woman, and that you like it even though it's disgusting.
No, there was something before that I was going to say. Oh well, like I said, it must not have been that important. I'll think of it as soon as we get off of here.
So I like all the parallels. I like all the parallels of Joanna and Cersei and Ashara, right? So you've got so I mean the concept there would be that that Joanna is as we briefly laid out, right? The idea here is Lenora Hill, Joanna's sister, realizes that the children are coupling, and
they're just hugging with style.
And is aware of the same scurrilous rumors that Ned is aware of, and it jumps to the immediate conclusion that they're Targaryens, right? And that they basically can't be kept apart. Like if you look in the history, what actually happened was people kept trying to get the Targaryen parents kept trying to get their children to marry for politics, including Jaehaerys, both himself and then him with his children, right? They would try to get them to marry for politics, and they would refuse. They would insist on coupling brother to sister, and so so Lenora Hill potentially is the one that realizes that they're Targaryens, confronts Joanna, right? Just as Ned was confronting Cersei,
right?
So her plan is, okay, well, I'll get I'll get the person I'll get my relative drunk, and kill her, and then she does the Sharadane slash Lenore Lenore in the show, right? Thing, and fakes her death, with a person that looks just like her, especially if you cover her in blood and cut her open like she got a cesarean.
Right.
And so you've got a fake death, because we know that at that time one of the servants was, quote, sent away.
Yeah.
And so and we know that there was a cabin that was prepared for somebody highborn to go back, right? And if she was deliberately keeping out of sight, then Oberyn might not realize that cabin actually was occupied on the way back.
Right.
um, and and then she could potentially have access to a glass candle. She's friends with she's friends with. We can throw out another theory here in the last few minutes. She's friends with her best friend who smuggled her out is in fact Septa Sclera, right? Um, so for those who don't know, Toodle says that Septa Sclera is Oberyn's mother. So there's lots of clues that Oberyn's mother is supposed to be Holy Roman Emperor Charles V, King Charles I of Spain. So, if so, then what should have happened with her is that when she was on her deathbed, she didn't die. She abdicated and went to a monastery, or in this case, went to King's Landing, because she would enjoy the intrigue. And how would she recover? Well, in the Middle Ages, the one way you could recover from gout would be with spoiled milk. And we have an elderly, and even more elderly septa amongst the septas that are with Cersei. One of them is strangely empathetic, as if she could identify with a female ruler. Smells like sour milk, and that would be Sclera, right? And so the theory is that, and you can look at her appearance, and she looks like she could potentially be related to the Martell look that we've described in the past, that Quentin has. We're told that Quentin looks exactly like Doran, and that I would say he looks pretty much exactly like Maester Marwyn. And other than height, I would say that they look like the elder brother, right? Mm-hmm. And anyway, so we've got a person that kind of looks Dornish, who seems to empathize with a female ruler, who smells like sour milk, as if she's somebody who recovered from gout. Well,
she's also sympathizing with her best friend's daughter.
Right. Like, why is this septa strangely nice to Cersei? And that would explain it, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, and there's one of the reasons that we know that she abdicated and didn't die is that Oberyn specifically tells us that she believed that she had gotten the better of the marriage arrangement, right? But we also know that her son was in charge before that happened. So either he's conducting seances, or she abdicated and didn't die. Like, those are the only two choices, right?
Yeah, that's true. I know I joke about Jaime being Azor Ahai, but with them being dragon babies, they are in the bloodline that is supposed to have produced Azor Ahai. And while I'm throwing that out there,
so what you're saying is Jaime is the prince that was promised.
There is a chance. It's about like that, but there is a chance. And then also on that note, and y'all can laugh at me all you want, but if Gendry is actually Robert and Cersei's firstborn, thought dead, not in the books, in the show, the episode that George R. R. Martin wrote, actual firstborn baby, and Cersei is a dragon, he is also in that bloodline of potential possible Prince of Promise characters. No, just throwing it out there.
Well, and he's a Baratheon who has Targaryen blood either way. So
Right.
this
Well,
the
I
whole
mean, I
point of
did
the
a video
claim.
on that. I did a video the day after I watched Gray Area. Just start bashing people for the Gendry is Robert and Cersei's. I hate that theory. Blah blah blah. And I'm not big on I hate that theory type of talk. I mean, there's those that I disagree with. I'm not R plus L equals J, but
We're going pretty crazy on this video. I realize that, Lizzie.
yeah,
We're
yeah.
getting deep in
But
there. We're
okay,
getting deep in the
I'll
rabbit
wrap it up.
hole.
But yeah, I did the video after Gray Area. Did I hate that? I had that theory. That I mean,
Right. Well, and my take on this, right, which is that George wants these things to be ambiguous. He wants there to be multiple interpretations, and he wants and he wants those to be correct. And
well, I mean,
when he says you have to also explain this, he's not trying to tell you that the theory is wrong. He's trying to tell you, for your interpretation, you should also think it all the way through and come up with an explanation for how this would be, right?
well, that's like the Littlefinger Joffrey influence that happened at uh, uh, Winterfell with the cat's paw and all that stuff. Well, I was like, yes, there is a unspoken influence that Littlefinger has on Joffrey, but you do have to overcome the distance for that to be correct. He's not saying that didn't happen. He just says you have to account for the distance.
No, he wants your interpretation to make sense, to match the evidence. He's not telling you, right. And that's the one thing that, when Guy, the Green Bard, says he doesn't like people poking holes in theories. I actually do like to poke holes in theories, in that I want to point out what else we need to explain about them to make them true, right? And I'm not saying you need to not believe your theory because this happened. I think I'm saying, okay, but how do we also explain this piece of evidence, right?
Yeah. Questions should not destroy a theory, but only make it stronger.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, we're at an hour and 2 minutes, which is pretty long for us. Like I said, I had a whole lot more fun today than I did Monday. This has been a blast.
We're not an hour 10. We're an hour 2.
I said an hour 2.
Oh, okay. So I misheard you.
I got a half a mouth. Sometimes they sound the same.
My ears aren't like all that great either. So anyway.
Yeah. All right. To everybody that joined us today, I appreciate it. This has been fun. All those of y'all that are having fun in the comments.
This is definitely one of the more fun videos.
Hell, I can't even remember who's on. Oh yeah, John's on Friday. Same bat time, same bat channel. Those that talk on it, appreciate it, Don Carson. I'll jump on about 1:30 for the chat on the ride to pick up Carter, and we will see everybody on Friday. And y'all be good. Always thank you, Richard. Everybody take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.